Hello and welcome back to another good episode of Glory Stories. I'm one of your co-hosts, Robert Kelly.
And I'm your other co-host, Phil Stanley, and it's a pleasure to have you join us back here at Glory Stories, where we just tell stories that uplift and hopefully bring glory to God through all the testimonies that we have. And boy, do we have a testimony sitting with us today. We're delighted to have our guest today, Jonathan and Christina Atkinson. Welcome, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're so glad to have you. Now, you guys, I've known you for a gazillion years now, and so y'all have quite the testimony. But before we jump into some of your story, tell us about yourself. Let us know what y'all do.
Well, I'm Jonathan. I actually work at Augusta Coca-Cola, lead service technician here in Augusta. Lived in Augusta my whole life. Born at St. Joseph Hospital, which is now Piedmont, Somerville. But yeah, 42 years old, and love Jesus.
I love it. That's great. Christina, tell the folks what you do.
I'm Christina, and I am actually Philip's administrative assistant.
God bless you.
I know.
For real. Special
For
prayers for you,
real,
ma'am.
for real. I'm from the New Mexico, Colorado area, and decided to head to Bible school, which is how I met this tall glass of sweet tea.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And we have been married 21 years.
21 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So it'll be 22 in March.
That's right.
I remember the wedding, and it doesn't feel like 21 years ago.
Absolutely.
Right?
I know.
Tell me
Some
about
days
it.
it feels like 42, but 21, it's been a crazy ride. So.
That's good. That's good. And when did y'all meet?
It was 2003. We met in January of 2003 at BRSM, which was, I think
The
school is now closed
Brownsville
down
Revival
now. But
School of Ministry.
yes, it was the school that was birthed out of the Brownsville Revival in Pensacola, Florida. We met in January, became really good friends, and it was in a spring break when I kind of realized that I like her. I like her more than a friend,
Oh, no.
But of course, being I was a first semester, she was second semester, I could not do anything about it. I had to sit and just be quiet. I couldn't tell her.
That was a rule?
Nothing. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, first semesters could not date. And but at 12:51 on the last day of school, that was when you were officially not a first semester student anymore.
That's right.
To the minute.
Yes.
To the minute.
Yes,
They let go at
12:50.
He was counting down.
12:51.
That's
And they
crazy.
called it the
They
1251
did. They
Club.
actually called it the 12:51
Because
Club
once
for
you were
people
released,
that
you were released.
and so
True story.
me and her went on our first date, but
Where'd you take her?
Ruby Tuesdays, and then
Heck yeah.
but
Great
then,
salad
but
bar.
wait a minute though, but even
you threw this
even
in the
next
grapevine?
thing, I actually still had a pass to Fort Pickens because I went snorkeling that week.
Oh, wow.
And there's a beautiful place to sit on the top of the old fort building and look out at the sunset.
Oh, cool.
So we went and did that after the fact. Like we just rolled out to Fort Pickens and sat up on the wall.
And
Man,
that
it's got
was-
game.
that
Look at
was
you.
May the 9th.
May the 9th.
You
And
remember
he
the
put
date.
me on a plane
The
May the
next day
10th.
to go home.
And we did long distance for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Ran up everybody's phone bill.
Everybody.
That was back in the days of the
Yes.
minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
That was
Oh
back
my
in the
gosh.
days
This
of
was
minutes.
landline too.
Yep.
Like
Oh,
mom and
crazy.
dad
Absolutely.
learned about a long distance plan that was then free, cheaper. Because that first phone bill after she went home, mom and dad were like, "This cannot happen."
For our
You know.
viewers listening, tell us what a landline is.
Yeah,
It's
just
a
kidding.
phone that you actually have to pick up.
yeah, and it stays attached to the house.
It stays attached to the house.
You cannot take it with you.
But yeah, we did long distance for 6 months, and it just kind of ended up working out. And sometimes not having the money isn't a no. It's a I have something different for you. So it just ended up that I didn't really have the finances to go back. And it kind of worked
Because
out.
your
the
church
same.
completely dropped you.
Yeah. My church was kind of going through some things, so they were kind of drop support, and
They sponsored you to go
yes,
to
they
the school?
sponsored me to go, and
Because her youth pastors at the time
my
had
youth
met
pastor was
at
the one that wanted
BRSM
me to go, and they
themselves,
met
you know.
at BRSM as well, and they wanted me to go, and so I went that first semester, and then went back the second semester, and I did work, so I did help, try, but it just ended up everybody went home, it just did not work out again. So I called Jonathan, and I kind of told him what was going on, and I'm like, I don't want this to waver your decision to go back. If you need to go back, go back.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, it's funny that you should say that because I don't have the money to go back either. I just could not get a job rolling through the summer like I needed it to. So then the question came, well, what do we do? Like, are we just going to do long distance forever? And neither one of us wanted to do that. So I was like, he's like, "You want me to come to you?" I'm like, "No, we're good." I'm from a one-horse town in Colorado that literally had one stoplight and was super excited that we got a McDonald's. And it's a big ski tourist town. And I just said it's very hard to sustain year round. I said, "I'll come to you." And he's like, "Okay." I said, "But beforehand, are we going to get married?" And he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So he put me on a plane May the 10th. We did long distance for 6 months. I came here the end of July,
Yeah.
beginning of
Something like
August,
that. Yeah.
and looked at apartments. I moved here in October.
Yep.
We were engaged by December
Me too.
and
Yep.
married by
Hey.
March.
Look at that.
So
Nice.
when we celebrated our 1 year anniversary together, we were already married.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
The dating anniversary.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Did you go back to Ruby Tuesdays though?
At
No,
12:51.
we
Just
didn't.
We did Ruby Tuesday on our wedding night though. That was where we went and ate dinner. Was at Ruby Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Did you go at 12:51 though?
No,
No.
Because that would have been.
that was in the evening by the time
That'd
we
have been
wrapped
really
up
cool.
and we
Epic.
left the
But
place. the
yeah,
event
and it's
center.
been 21 years of a lot of twists and turns and unexpected plot twists that we never saw coming. But I knew from the moment I married him that we were in it and we were going to dig our heels in, and it just was going to be what it was going to be, and it was me and him, and the only way you're leaving me is in a pine box. So however we want to handle that, we can. So
Your options. There are options to get in the pine box.
That's
funny.
awesome.
Now,
But-
I heard that you had something was told to you when you were like a teenager, right?
Yes. The church that your first assembly, that me and Philip both, grew up in. The youth pool was not very big, and a lot of the girls that I grew up with, they kind of look at you more as a brother more than anything else.
Yeah, it is a little weird.
And so, and I was kind of, because I was never the Mrs. Right Now. I was always the one. All my friend group, I was always the one looking for my forever.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing to even be.
Yeah.
Even in the late '90s, that was very odd.
Very much against the current too,
right? Yeah,
of what everyone
And-
else is.
Absolutely.
Now, you're talking
focusing on.
about like wife, not your favorite car, right?
Oh yeah, I always like. Well, I can't even have one of those. There's a lot of those. But anyway,
He has a
but-
polygamous relationship
Yes,
with cars.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes, Jay Leno's my idol. Anyway, I was kind of depressed. I was, I was, and it's weird. I was a teenager already wanting to be married.
Sure.
It was like something that I always wanted,
Why?
and it just
Because your parents.
Well, I had a good family, and I watched how my mom and dad acted around each other, and
They are epic.
and I was like, I said, I want that too,
Yeah.
and so I was always looking for the one. And it was a day, I think I might have been like maybe 15, and I was really having a bad day. I just can't meet nobody, this, that, and the other. And my mom said, and she forgot about this until later. She goes, Jonathan said, God's got the right girl for you. Even if he has to bring her from Colorado, she will be there. And that was kind of like, moms say things, and
Yeah.
you just, whatever. Well, then years down the road, we're in that process. She goes, "Do you remember what I told you that one day?" And I went, "No." And she said, "I told you that God would bring you the right girl, even if you had to bring her from Colorado." And I said, "Oh my Lord." And she is from
Hi.
Colorado,
Hi.
And,
Hi,
but,
hello.
Hi,
but
girl
by
from
way
Colorado.
of Pensacola, Florida. I mean, that's what the craziest
Right.
thing about it is.
Yeah.
I didn't go to Colorado. I met her in Florida, furthest
Absolutely.
from Colorado.
That's so crazy.
And
that.
and I tell you, the whole thing just, yeah, we caught a lot of flack. I ain't gonna lie,
For getting married so young.
well, that, and also
How old were you?
20.
we were 20 when we got
That's
married.
not
Yeah.
young.
We were both 20. Well, I
It's
mean,
not
That's
young.
young. No,
but-
that's young.
but-
The guy
That's
that got
great.
married at like 18.
Right. Well, because there's always a stigma with getting married young. Like,
Oh yeah, puppy love. It'll
yeah,
never
puppy
last.
love, like it'll never
Yeah.
last, and we even had family members say, "You guys won't even last 5 years," and and I don't know, maybe we're together just to prove them all wrong,
we
but
ain't got quitting since.
I don't
yeah, we
think
ain't got
so.
quitting sense, but I also know that there's nobody else like he's my best friend
Yeah.
and has been for
And we
21
were
years.
beforehand.
And
That's
we
the
were
thing. We were best
beforehand.
friends before we ever
Mhm.
became romantically involved.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
I
That's
still
what it's
tell her, but
supposed
that
to
is
be.
the way to do it.
It is.
That is the
Yeah.
100% way to do it.
I love that.
Because we connected on other levels before. Because I mean, let's be honest, we're all married here. Romance brings stress. So if that's all you have and that was your first thing,
Yeah.
you know, like we connect on deeper levels other than that, you know.
That's well said.
You know, I mean,
Hmm.
and before the romance came into play.
A lot
Maybe
of
the
relationships.
expectations in romance. You know,
Absolutely.
like what
Well,
the
that-
media says that
Yeah,
it should
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like,
right,
or
exactly.
you know, the
Yes,
movies and things like
yes.
that. You know, these storybook, you know,
Right.
Hallmark movies. Oh, it's so perfect.
Well,
and
and
then
also,
and
you
then
have
and why
moments.
don't you do that for me? You know,
Right.
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
romantic like these guys on TV.
Well, and
Yeah, those
we
guys
always,
aren't romantic like
we
that
always
either.
laugh about like bringing your representative, like when you go on a first date, like you are on your best behavior and you don't.
Yeah,
And I don't know.
We-
Jonathan and I are not built that way.
No.
I was about to say, I was
so
like, did that actually happen?
I
No.
wasn't built
No.
that way back then, and I'm certainly not built that way now. And I guess like for me, it was the real conversations that I could have with him. Like I was not the pushy girl, like we have to get married, but like you have to understand, I'm moving like
2,000
5, 6,
miles
7
away,
states
yeah.
away, and I'm
Mhm.
like, if this doesn't end well, I don't just get in a car and leave. Like this is like
Mhm.
a moving process, and you're probably going to have to help me because I have no idea where I'm going. So then we're gonna have a
Still
dramatic.
don't.
I
21
really
years later,
don't.
she still
Worst
doesn't.
senses, yes. But I just the real conversations of having like, I love you. Like, what are your intentions? Like, people were like, I can't believe you would say that to him, and I'm like, we didn't have time to play games. Like,
Yeah.
I could have stayed in Colorado. Like, if you don't think this is gonna be, don't make me move. My whole life to come here, and if this is not the end goal for us. But there was nobody else I wanted to be with. It
Well,
took
I
a
mean,
little
it
bit.
also makes a difference that y'all already had a great relationship. Y'all are best
Absolutely.
friends, so
Mhm.
you already had an understanding, or you could talk to each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We
If-
could have those
yeah.
real conversations because the girls I would talk to, like, and tell them our story, they were like, "Oh, I would never." Like, it would make me look like this, and it probably would if that's not who you are. I'm like, but that's not who. But all the people that said, "Oh, you won't last 5 years," you're getting married too young.
Mm.
We weren't going to hear that noise. I mean, and also too, sometimes when you don't have a lot of money, you're just like, I mean, this is it. Like we
All
have
you got
to
is each other.
all we
Yeah.
have is each other, and we have to dig our heels in, and like this is it. Like it's gonna be weird, and it might be tough, but
Yeah.
And
You
we
know.
had the typical first years, man. Hardly two nickels to rub together. Small apartment, cheap apartment, low paying jobs.
Mhm.
Our biggest entertainment was at the time Netflix had just come out, and it was the mail in.
Yep, the DVDs.
Yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
it was the cost for Netflix was what two rentals cost at a movie store.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, we couldn't afford cable.
Yep.
So we had the early days of Netflix, man. I mean, we were OG Netflix people.
That's how we
One of
went.
the first Netflix and chill couples
Yes.
to ever
Absolutely
exist.
Oh my
were.
gosh.
That's how
Oh
we
my
watch. That's how
gosh.
we watch Friends.
Yes.
So,
we
I
watched the
love
whole
Friends.
entire
Oh, you
series
can
of
watch that
Friends through
forever.
that way.
Yeah.
You could.
No, but I mean, and we have always been like, she knew right off the rip what I was willing to do and not willing to do in our relationships. I don't do well with being sick. Okay, I do. It's bad enough when I'm sick. I can't handle it when somebody else is. And one day she was talking to her dad. I come in, I hear her dad just belly laughing, and he had a laugh that
had a
was
great
different than
laugh.
anybody else's laugh. And he said, "We're having a conversation." I said, "About what?" He goes, "You're not going to hold her hair if she gets sick?" I said, "No." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because it can't support two people down there, you know." And that got proven. Our first 6 months of marriage, she got a stomach virus because she worked at a daycare. She brought everything home,
Mm-hmm.
and we were watching TV. She gets up, runs to the restroom. She's start getting sick. I walk upstairs, get a rag, get a hot water on. I toss it to her. I don't even
Barely
walk
open the
in
door.
the bathroom. I just toss it down the little hallway. And again, another conversation like, you really were serious. I'm like, I was dead serious about that.
But then
But
have
yeah, like,
kids.
Yes,
See how far
and
that gets
but
you.
yeah,
That's
and I
right.
had to work through some stuff. But yeah, but no, but I mean, like I said, we've always been upfront, with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no secrets, in our lives. Never has been. Like I had no problem trusting her being 2,000 miles away from me.
Right.
That right there showed already what I was willing to do, because it wasn't like I could just walk up and beat somebody up. If like I had to trust that she was all about me. I was all about, and she had the same thing, and
Absolutely.
like matter of fact, there was a girl that I had kind of been starting to see before I went off and met her, but she was very wishy-washy. Well, of course, when you find out you can't have something anymore,
Mhm.
you try to come back out of the woodwork. So I had to like sit her down and be like, listen, this is it. We're done.
Yeah.
You know, and I even had to be a little brutally honest. Like, listen, I've got somebody who's a lot better to me than you were.
Mm.
And that is hard to
Hey,
hear,
dude.
but I was
Savage,
like,
right?
I said, but I need you to understand and be clear that we're done.
But I'm here
There's
for
no,
it.
Relationship hatchet.
yes,
My
you know,
goodness.
Yeah.
and
Goodness
Well,
gracious.
me and Amy look back at those first years because we were young too. I told
Oh,
you I
yeah.
was young. Those are some of the best years.
they
They
were.
Like when
were.
you had nothing,
It was simple.
and you
It
like
was
literally your day was
simple.
filled with just hanging out,
Yes.
eating what you found. You know, it's like.
Yes.
But we look back, and I look back at the home videos from those times, and I'm like, man, we're so happy.
Yes.
And you know, now today, you know,
Life hadn't
we're
kicked
still
you in the
happy,
teeth yet.
but life, I mean, life just gets complex, and then
Absolutely.
yeah, more money, more problems, and then you know,
Mhm. Yes.
yeah,
That
yeah.
hamburger helper doesn't taste as good as it did back then.
Not as good as it did.
Not
Yeah,
as good as it did.
Really
No.
yeah.
didn't.
Beef stroganoff for us. That was the
Absolutely.
yeah. So do you guys have any children or
Yes, we
We
have
do.
one little girl.
okay?
On this side of heaven.
Okay.
We do
Yep.
have one on the other side.
Gotcha.
Son. His name was Shane. He was when we decided, because we were definitely late bloomers. We were in our late 20s when we even
Yeah.
decided we want to start having kids.
Gotcha. And you'd been married at this point.
9 years.
I'm about to say, yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
9 years.
by
Yeah,
that-
that's a long
'cause
time.
Like, so we got married at 20. Yeah, so 28, 29 was when we decided that we were
Gotcha.
ready to start
Yeah.
having kids.
Wow.
And so, you know, got pregnant, and it eventually, or initially, everything was fine, you
Mhm.
know, but then all of a sudden we were supposed to find out what we were having,
Mm.
and they couldn't really get a definitive answer.
Mhm.
But you could tell that something was off. It wasn't like, oh, they're just turned, we can't see.
Right.
Because the woman doing the sonogram, her poker face was horrible, because you could see that something
It
was
was.
wrong. And so she said, the doctor will be right in and talk to y'all.
Oh,
And
Lord.
you know,
Which is
you
the
never like hearing
worst.
that. And she comes in talking about how it had been, a month and a half since your last sonogram,
Yeah.
and the baby hadn't gotten any bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the state where he should almost be doubling in size every month.
Mm-hmm.
And he had not gotten any bigger over a month and a half.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they had known from the beginning that she was having some issues, but they weren't necessarily a concern at the time. It was kind of like, oh yeah, this is going on, but maybe, you know, whatever. So they, of course, you know, I love the medical profession to an extent, but you know, and at that point they were like, well, here's the thing. They said, University Hospital doesn't do abortions. And we were like, what do you mean? They were like, well, this is not good. The baby is not healthy, is not making it. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I said, we're not making that decision. If, you know, if this baby is not meant to make it, it's going to have to be natural. God's going to have to take this baby. I said, we're not making that decision.
Absolutely.
And we're like, is there any way we can get a second opinion? And she's like, well, I've got you set up with a high risk doctor across the hallway.
First thing in
And-
the morning.
Yeah, first thing in the morning.
So go home
wow.
and sit in that for a minute.
Yeah.
For 24 hours.
Yeah,
Trying to sleep.
We come back that next day, and the doctor, she's like, okay, well, we're going to run all these tests. I mean, they dumped the whole bag of vials out on the table.
Jonathan
you know?
doesn't like blood either.
Yeah, I don't like that either. So I mean, so I had to kind of turn away a little bit while they're just, I mean, one stick's fine, but when they're going for the 20th vial, you're like, come, is there any left? You know, so and they rushed the results. They were like,
Yeah.
we need to know now. So the next morning we had results, and she goes, okay. She said, and honestly, up until this point, we thought it was a girl. They said from what they could see, they thought girl. And she was like, all right, so we have a little boy in there, and Down syndrome. And we were like, wait, what? And they're like, what's it, a boy? The doctor said, that's what you picked up on?
That's
Yeah,
what we
that's-
want.
the
That's
Down
the stop.
syndrome
That's where you
part?
want me to pull further
Yeah.
from.
But honestly, we were both like, okay.
Yeah, and we're
We're
like,
just
okay,
surprised that
we're
it's a
like,
boy.
okay, so Down syndrome was like, so what's the next step? She goes, well, I can put some stuff on you, and we can get this pregnancy keep going. She said, it's going to be rough from here on out, but you're going to have to be monitored, bed
She
rest.
wasn't kidding.
Dr. Larson she's a bulldog when it comes to that kind of stuff. But so we went through, I mean, now the time frame to me gets a little lost. How much longer pregnant were you once we got that?
Well, because, you know, typically you find out what you're having about 16 weeks, like
Mhm.
15, 16 weeks. And he came at 33 weeks.
33 weeks.
So I literally, within 24 hours of having the OBGYN appointment, had to quit my job, go on full-blown bed rest, make sure my house was in order, and could not get up. And, you know, when you're, I would say young married, but like, when you have to full stop, I was like, okay, Lord, here
Well,
we go.
and
What are we
neither of us are
doing?
slouch people. We're always
No, I
going. We're
mean,
always busy
but I
people.
said, and it was my first real conversation. Like, because of course you did the not cute prayers, but like, Lord, thank you so much for this baby, and thank you so much. But now we're getting into
Intercession
now we're
almost, you
Oh
skipping
know.
over
yeah.
all
You
that and
of
going, Lord,
course.
I'm gonna need your help. Like, this is getting real. Like, are we meant to handle this? Like, okay, where you got? And it was 4 hour doctor's appointments, and it was vials of blood every time I walked in the door, and it was people literally had to drive me because I was getting so weak that I couldn't. I was giving myself injections in my belly and stuff like that, and I had to get up around the clock and eat because they said
High protein diet
for
is
whatever
like,
reason, things weren't getting to him, and I was losing weight rapidly, and they said, "But he's not growing either," so they said, "You have to get up every 4 hours and eat something." So, like, I'm in the dark eating peanut butter pretzels, crying because 'cause I'm like,
fine.
"I don't wanna be awake. I don't wanna be eating pretzels. I don't wanna be eating peanut butter pretzels." And I'm like, "Lord, okay, like, you must have had to pick somebody else for this, like, this can't be me." I'm like, "However, because I am who I am, Imma fight till the bitter end." I said, "You gotta let me know where we're at and all this." I said, "You gotta walk with me because I can't do this." And nobody really in our families had ever dealt with anything
No,
like this
no.
before ever, so nobody really knew what to do, like, and honestly, like, I have a best friend that walked through some things too and prior, and it rocked our world to the core, and I was like, "Lord, what are you setting us up for?"
It's
Like,
interesting to be trauma bonded to somebody you're not in the military. I mean, in a
yeah,
civilian life,
yeah.
you two have similar
Our
experiences
best friends
to where
lost a
you trauma
child
bond
too,
over
and
something, you
lost a
know.
child, but and so then we're, like, going to doctor's appointments and things like that, and so we're trying to get in our new routine of crazy, and so we just embrace it and we do what we can. Well, at 33 weeks, um he wasn't moving at all. And she did say, she's like, there's a possibility. She's like, your placenta looks horrible. I don't know what's going on. She's like, but there's going to come a time where this may all halt, stop,
And we got to get him
and
out.
we got to get him out, or things are going to happen the other way. And I was like, okay. Well, I go to a doctor's appointment. I think it was like a Monday morning. No, a Friday morning. No, Thursday
Like I
morning.
said,
Excuse me. I'm
time
so
frames are
sorry.
you're
Thursday
on.
morning because he wasn't moving. And she was like, this is it. And I went, I'm sorry. And I drove myself that day. I was like, I had nobody because everybody was at work. And she was like, no, wait, today's the day. I went, okay, well, let me go home. She said, no, I'm going to get your husband to come pick you up. And she yelled out and got him. I think he was there in 10 minutes. And I was like right now, like, can't pack it back. She said, nope. She's like, it's all stopped. It's all stopped. And I
Your
went,
placenta's completely
your
failed.
placenta's completely
Eh,
failed. If we don't get him out now, we don't know what's gonna happen. I said, "Okay." And, they go to the hospital and but the thing is I had taken all my medication,
Blood thinners,
blood thinners,
everything.
everything, so they were
So
like, you know, they said, "We're gonna wait as long as we can, but we can't guarantee what's gonna happen." They said, "We have at least got to give you 5 hours to get the blood thinners at least somewhat working out of your system, because if we do this now, you're not gonna make it either." And I was like, "So
Terrifying.
they are
well, because
lit."
I couldn't go back because this was a full blown surgery they were
Yes,
fixing me. This was not be a normal
we're actually
C-section.
signing paperwork, and the nurse was, like, so nice, but, like, he didn't know what to say so bluntly, and he said and he asked Jonathan to sign it, and he asked me to sign it, and Jonathan said, "What are we signing?" He said, "I need you to sign this because she may not make it, because there is so much going against this that she may not come out of it either, and this is saying, basically, you can't sue us," and I was like, "Okay, Lord." So I had a quick conversation with God. I'm like, you go through the A's, B's, and C's. I'm like, I'm sorry if I've done anything. I repent of anything. If I've done this wrong, I'm sorry. I hope to see you. If this is how it goes down, this is how it goes down. And I said, but it's almost like when you panic pray like that, like, Lord, please help me make sure I'm okay to go. If today's my day, then today's my day. I mean, I didn't have any other thing to say. And I was like, I would love if he would make it. I said, we fought so hard to get even here.
Hmm.
They said we wouldn't even get here. And the doctors are telling us if he's not at least 4 pounds because he had AV heart canal,
Yeah,
that if he
only
wasn't
two chambers instead of four.
that if he wasn't 4 pounds, that he wasn't gonna make it, and now you're telling me I'm not gonna make it, so we might lose all this today. Today's the day. And so, I prayed, and they roll me back, and they actually had to put me to sleep. They said, "We don't have time to do this other stuff, so you're actually going to sleep," which is also another
Now
factor.
the doctor, we had Dr. Maddox when we missed Dr. She was
Yeah, me
great.
too.
She said once I get you under, she said I can have the baby out in less than a minute. And she said they knew they had to work
And
fast
I
because
I
everything
did
going
not know
on.
if I was opening my eyes in heaven or if I was gonna open my eyes or side. And
Wow.
so
And
when
of
I
course, panic. They had wheeled her out enough because this was an emergency surgery, so you knew as soon as they hit the OR they were going to get started. Probably about 5 minutes after they rolled her out, all these alarms started going off. They
code
had this
blue.
like code
No.
thing. All of us freaked out. And then all of a sudden we noticed where everybody was running from or running to. It was the other direction.
No.
And I was like, oh, whew, no, they're going this way. She went that way. So, okay.
But I have to say, saying goodbye to your spouse,
Yeah.
A lot.
I mean, what do you say? What do you do?
With no
What do you
preparation.
with no
Yes,
preparation
yes,
at all?
yeah.
Like, and I hate to even say this. I mean, just like with cancer, like sometimes you know it's coming and you know that sometimes it's
Yeah.
gonna be the end.
You're given a
Sometimes
timeline, yeah.
you have a timeline or you say all the things you want to say, and then it's like, but then when you're like that, you don't know what to say other than I love you, and I mean, keep going. I mean, that's all I could say. And I was like, I love you, and we chose this. I'm all in. However this goes down, I'm all in. So, and then all of a sudden I opened my eyes and I was like,
She's staring at
oh,
me. I'm
I said,
face to face with her.
he's touching my nose. And like, it was like
That's
one of the,
terrifying.
yes, it was. I opened my eyes and like, he is touching my nose and all I see are his eyes. And he said, he is here and he is beautiful and you did great. And I went,
Now,
okay.
here's the thing, though. This is where you start seeing the miracles. So here they told us he had to be at least 4 pounds. He was 1 pound 14 ounces when he was born. When they rolled him through, you couldn't even see a baby. All you saw were tubes and blankets because he was so small. Like the smallest diaper they had to almost cut in half to even make it fit on
Wow.
him. That's how little he was. And and you go on through things, and of course they're medically panicking. We have to get this child to a certain weight. So they do their things, their normal stuff. But all through it, his heart was never an issue.
Nope.
What they
Wow.
were worried about, his heart was never an issue. Even towards the end, they treated him as a cardiac patient, but they were like, his heart is doing great. They said even with it having only two chambers, it's keeping up. Because
Mhm.
the problem is your heart doesn't evenly distribute blood. It does so much to this side of your body and so much to this
Mhm.
side. But without the fourth chambers, it does equally. It does 50% in both directions.
Yeah.
So one system can't handle that much blood pressure. So that's why they were panicking. They
And
were
that's
like,
indicative of Down
yeah,
syndrome.
that
AV
is a very
canal.
common thing with
Mhm.
Down syndrome children to have that heart
Huh.
problem.
But
And
that's
usually at 5-6 pounds, they can fix it. They can go in and
yeah,
do
they
open heart
can.
surgery when the
It's
child is 6
amazing.
pounds and fix it. We talked to a family that went through that. He said, I kind of was around. He said they kind of let us kind of overlook. He said at that age, their heart's the size of a strawberry, and they can go in and make two more chambers in something that small.
Wow.
And he
Wow.
said, and then as they get older, they have to keep having surgeries as you grow and everything like that. But yeah, all the way through it, that
Mhm.
is not even officially what he passed away from.
No.
Unfortunately, it was the side effects of the stuff they were doing to try to get weight on him. It's hard on your organs.
Yeah.
And he actually died from liver failure.
Yeah.
But it was, and
But
and we played the coulda, shoulda, should we have said,
yeah.
let's not push this, and
Right.
but again, we don't know. We're not doctors.
No.
You're trusting that the people that have the best interest in mind, can handle it. And like I said, nobody's perfect. But like I said, I mean, honestly though, as weird as to say, his story reached so many people.
Yeah.
We actually have a okay, we have a flag that is hanging up.
It's
You
okay,
want me
man.
you want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a flag that's hanging up that was flown off of a Chinook, and one of my friends from Colorado, her husband was in the army, and they fly flags in folks' honor, and he was in Iraq, and his story went to Iraq because she was telling him, but then all the guys started hearing like her updates from us as she got them. And so they flew a flag in his honor. So when they shipped it to us, it came after he had passed. And there was a letter from them saying we flew this flag in Iraq in his honor. So it was just amazing to see the stories that God unfolded. Like, because, when we had him that day, you know, of course they're going, we don't know, So they said, do you think it's possible that you can get up? And I went, right now?
Yeah.
And they said, well, if we can, if you could wait till the middle of the night. I had him at what, like 7,
It
6,
it was
7,
mid
5,
afternoon,
6, 7,
evening,
5,
something like
about
that.
evening time. I was up on my feet at 2 a.m. from a C-section, and they said,
You don't realize how bumpy the floor in a hospital is until you're pushing somebody that has fresh
just
C-section
the
and
lines on
surgery
the
scars.
floor hurt.
She's going, ow, ow. I said,
Oh,
babe, I'm not going over anything.
yeah.
She goes, I feel it. It's
But when
like,
we went to the NICU and they're like trying to talk to us and tell us, what they've started, what they're doing and all that. And they said, what do you want us to do? And I said, you fight as long as he fights. I said, that's all I know to tell you. I said, we're going to fight as long as he wants to fight. And they said, okay. I said, if there's nothing holding him back, don't hold him back. Help us. And they said, okay, we'll do. And I sat as isolate, and of course I'm like, my whole body's racking with pain. It doesn't matter what they're giving me. And I was like, okay, Lord, here we are. You got to hold my hand. I don't know what to do. And they said, well, here's the thing. He can stay in this NICU, but if it goes any further, we're going to have to take him to Atlanta. And I said, okay. Well, he stays about a month
mm-hmm,
here,
mm-hmm.
and I am up on my feet within 3 days, traveling to the NICU and all that. I can't even be driven. I have to be driven because I'm on pain medication. So he stays here for about a month, and the doctor goes, this is starting to get a little bit out of our scope, even though they're one of the best NICUs in the country. And so he goes, we want Atlanta to see him because we just don't really know how much further what we can do here. And I said, okay. And so that started our journey with the Ronald McDonald House. And of course, there's one of those hard conversations like, what do we do? Do you come with me? Do I just go? And then we both decide like, if he comes with me, we have no home, we have no car, we have no if all that goes too on top of all this, I said, "Well, I'm already off of work, I had to quit a while ago, so I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do this." And he's like, "Okay." Well, Ronald McDonald House completely set me up, and which is they are
Great organization.
amazing and
Great
fantastic,
organization.
and will forever invest in them. And they let parents stay there with children if you live 60 miles away from where the hospital's at that your child is staying, they'll let you stay there. And 9 times out of 10, it can be free or it's $25 a day, so it
Uh-huh.
doesn't end up breaking the bank. So I stayed there. I went to Atlanta. We were here for a month. We went to Atlanta in
For a
that
month.
NICU for a month. Um,
Back to Augusta for a
back
month.
to Augusta for another month, and then
Last
he
month and a half
last
was
month and a
back in
half was
Atlanta
back in
again.
Atlanta, and the last month and a half, it was just it got progressively worse. Like they couldn't get veins, they couldn't get it was becoming progressively worse of what they could do. Like, and his tiny body just could not keep doing. They did an exploratory surgery, and he had cirrhosis of the liver. Asked me if I drank. I'm like, you must be high. No, I haven't. And they said, well, it must be what honestly, the things to try to keep him going because he couldn't have milk, he couldn't have. And so I remember I was kind of starting to slip a little bit, honestly. And because, when you're your child's advocate, like you have to be on all the time. And there's never a time where you're not on because they could call you at 2 a.m. They call you all day. You're either sitting at their isolate or you're waiting on a phone call. And for about a year after he passed, if someone called me in the middle of the night, I would jump. Like it would literally wake me up no matter what. So I was like, so I go, he was in the cardiac intensive care unit, and I was sitting as isolate. And like I said, my days and nights got all flipped around. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting up, and I always read to him. And so I'd read to him, and I'd hold his hand. And it took a whole team to get him out of the isolate and let me hold him and all that. So I was doing that, and then the team moved him back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to God, and I'm like, Lord, what are you doing? I I don't know how much more I got in me.
Either of us
Like,
can take.
either of us can
Any
take. I'm
three
like, our
work here
house is
now.
flipped upside down. I said, but they keep telling, I tend to hear more than I probably should hear because I'm an over researcher. But I also know that I created a relationship with the nurses to where they were a little more honest with me than they could be with
Mm.
some parents. Because some parents, and that's okay. But I created a relationship of trying to be as honest as I could be, and they were honest with me. And I just was starting to hear like the things that were not happening that should be happening. And so I'm sitting in his isolate and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and they've got him settled. And, I'm praying and I'm talking to God and I'm like, God, I don't know how much more I got in me. And I'm like, God, don't get me started.
No, right.
I was sitting in his isolate at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's really quiet. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know. You got to help me. You got to tell me something. You got to let me know that I'm going to be okay. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And about as audibly as I've ever heard God speak to me, I said, "You have to let me know what we gotta do here, because I can't make this choice on my own to let him go." I said, "But you gotta tell me that you're gonna be with me through all this." And, about the most audibly I've ever heard God speak to me, it was almost like he came over my shoulder and he said, "If you had to choose here or heaven for your son, what would you choose?" And I was like, and I knew it was God because I was like, I wouldn't have said that to myself. I'm like, "That's dumb." But if you had a choice between here and heaven, because it would have been a life for him of, I think the end result still would have been the end result, but like how far do we take it? And so many parents, and it makes my heart hurt for parents that like you keep going because you can't let go and you can't, you know, dedicate them to the Lord in a way that like you're okay with the answer. And so when I heard that, if you had a choice between here and heaven, what would you choose for your son? And I said, and what the statement I made to the Lord before he spoke to me is I said, I am going to wrestle you like Jacob until you answer me. Cause I kind of got in this weird desperation of, you got to tell me I'm going to be okay.
Mm.
And I said, Lord, I'm going to wrestle you like Jacob. I'm not leaving here tonight until you tell me this is going to be okay and that you're with me. And that's when he said, if you had a choice. And I was like, okay, Lord. And so I cried and cried and cried and cried, and I said, "Okay." I said, "You gotta tell me when it's time." And so I had that conversation with God, and
It was the next morning, wasn't it?
no, it was honestly about a week after that. I woke up sobbing, and I'm not that girl. Y'all know I'm not that girl. I woke up sitting up in my bed sobbing. And before I'd ever talked to anybody, before I ever knew, like it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I sat up sobbing, and it was like my heart knew today's the day. And I called my best friend because I didn't call Jonathan first because I tried not to be, I tried to compose myself, but I called my best friend, God bless. And she said, "Is it time?" And I said, "I think so." She's like, "Have you talked to anybody?" I said, "No, but I have a feeling." And so I call the hospital and they're like, "We need you to come in." And I said, "Okay, okay." And so I called Jonathan and I said, "I will call you as soon as I talk." And the doctors came in and said, "There's just we can keep going, but his body just cannot take it anymore. Like we don't have veins to access. We don't, his body's shutting down." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'm gonna make the phone call." And so I prayed and I was like, "Lord, oh Lord, we're not gonna make it."
Mm.
I said, "Phew." I said, "We have to make this decision," but I said, "You told me you were gonna be with me." I said, "So our choice is heaven, and now I see it and I get it." I said, "But you gotta help us." And once they disconnected him, it was about 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 hours all in, and, it just and then you kinda go numb,
Mm.
you kinda go blank, you kinda go but then the nurses, like, I literally created a family out of these nurses, and nurses were coming in that were not on shift to come
Wow.
and say their goodbyes, to come and hug us, to come and there's a nurse that I'm still friends with, that his nurse that was with us through all of it. I'm still friends with her, and she was like, "I there are not a lot of families that have walked this out the way y'all have walked this out." And she's like, "I just want you to know, like," and there's people that are like, and then I know it sounds crazy, but, like, me and Jonathan talked about it a lot that, like, people are watching. People are watching how we handle this. People are
Mhm.
watching, and not that we necessarily care what people think, but it was more of the, "Lord, help us not to let you down
Yeah.
in this story. Like, help us to walk this out how you, like, go with before us so we don't," you know.
Yeah.
So it definitely this story was definitely, so after we let him go, you know, it just I was not interested at all in having any more children. I was good. I was all filled up. And I told John, I said, "We're all filled up on crazy here. I'm good." And I said, "I love you. I'm still all in," which is amazing because the doctors would told us we had
Yes.
a
70%
75%
chance of divorce dealing with
of
this.
Wow.
divorce dealing with this.
Mhm.
And this was at a medical
But he,
meeting.
he was happy though because when we had that family meeting, we had the whole family
Yeah,
there.
we
Mhm.
did.
Mom, dad, her sister, Mike and Tracy. And he said, but he said, not usually anybody comes in with this many family members. He said, y'all might be better than most. But he said,
Yeah.
I need you just to understand the weight and gravity of what you're fixing to walk through.
Yeah.
And we watched stories of people that when their son or daughter finally did pass, they got divorced. They
Mhm.
separated because it was like that,
But it
it
ended up
was,
being making us stronger,
it
and it
did.
ended up
The little stuff didn't matter anymore. After we went through that, the
yep.
newlywed bickering that you do, you're
Mhm.
like,
That
it goes
that's
away.
nothing.
That goes away.
That's nothing
So you're
compared.
helping her if she's sick now?
Oh no,
Oh,
that's no.
okay.
She's still solo on
He's
All right.
that.
still
No,
standing on
that's
business
Not
with
letting go
that.
of that.
No, but
That's good.
it somehow, like, and God in that too, like, it made us stronger. It bonded us in the weirdest possible way that, like, we just knew that, like, the little things didn't matter anymore, and, like, it wasn't really. And then, cut to, and it took me a whole year, but
to
then
even
I
want to have a
to even
kid.
want to have a kid, but I actually volunteered. I went back to the NICU here in Augusta and, like, help and tried to help moms that were dealing with the same
Oh,
thing,
that's great.
and try to minister to them in a way that they would understand. And, like, you are never going to have a more expensive babysitter than you do right now. Go get some rest,
Yeah,
because
take
when they
some
do
time.
come out, you're going to have to be on your A game, because medically fragile children, you have to be. And
And they
you
don't come home
know
with bells and
they
whistles,
don't come home with bells and whistles always. And so that was the first year, and the second year he kind of started talking about things, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I don't want to." Well, it ended up that the
It took us a
doctor,
year. We took a year to decide we wanted to have kids again, then a year to even
yeah,
get
to
pregnant
wrap our head.
again.
But then we had to go get blood tests, because the kind of Down syndrome that Shane had was called Robertsonian translocation Down syndrome, which means I or Jonathan carry the gene for Down syndrome, but we don't have Down syndrome. But we had a 50 to 75% chance of
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 every
a child
child
having
having
Down
Down
syndrome
syndrome.
every time. And I I was okay with the no. I was settled in the no. And then, but I said, as much as I said, he's not gonna go get a blood test.
Yeah, I don't like
And I
needles.
said,
That's the thing.
"So I
Yes,
don't have
that
to worry about that. We're good. He's not gonna go get a blood test." He comes to me one day and goes, "All right, let's do this." I went,
a lot of
I
inner
laughed, but
turmoil psyching yourself up for that.
yeah.
Let me tell
But
you.
I was like, "Okay, let's do this." So we go and get the blood test, and it turns out the doctor calls us and he goes, "I don't know if I've ever seen this. Neither one of you have that gene. So I have no idea
Oh, wow.
where
That's
he came from."
crazy.
Where his came
Where
from.
his
Yeah.
came from. I said, that's about right. That's on brand for us." And he said, "Neither one of you have it. Go go be with God. Go, you can reproduce and you'll be fine." And I said, "Okay." Well, it turned out that the placenta issues and all that I had was a blood clotting disorder, which I still have. Um, it's called MTHFR, which a lot of mamas out there know that sometimes you typically do not get diagnosed with it until you're pregnant, which is a lot of the reason that Shane never grew. And so there were a lot of factors factoring in. And so that was one of the situations. So I had to go back on medicine and all that, even to get pregnant.
Mm.
And of course, you have one of those real conversations with the Lord about, "All right,
We
Lord,
can't do this again.
I'm I know you've built me tough as nails. I don't know why, but here we are. But I can't go crazy again. I need you to fully help me in this." And I'm like, "I give this baby to you." I said, "I'm gonna dedicate him." You know, I said, whatever they turn out to be, I said, this is it. I said, this is it for me. I want you to have this baby and do what you need to do. And so we went through all the motions, figured out she was a girl. And so I started praying. I said, Lord, if something goes sideways, I need her to be healthy. I don't want a NICU stay. I started being oddly specific about my asks. I said, I need her to be healthy. The minute she comes out, I said, I want her, and then I started asking for silly things, like I want her to be funny, like really funny, like not just kid funny, but like really funny. And I'm
She
like,
is.
and I said, and I want her to know you at a young age. I said, and I want her to be able to, as they say, stand on business. I don't really know if I knew what I was asking for. I actually asked for feisty, and
There's been
John.
times we've almost regretted that. I was like, oh, did you? This is what you wanted. You
So
said.
my body basically did the same thing that it did with Shane, and I had to have her a whole month early, almost 6 weeks early.
Wow.
And I was like,
But she was
I said,
completely
Lord, yeah,
good.
you're killing me here, man. I said, you got to help me. I said, she's got to come out healthy. You just have to. We just have to. And I'm gonna stand again. We're gonna dig our heels in. I'm like, she's got to be healthy. She comes out screaming and rolled over in the warmer. And the
First day, like
nurse
rolled
said, in
over.
my 20 years, I've never seen a newborn roll over. Drink a whole bottle, and she's not
Like
supposed to drink a
quick.
whole
They were trying to
bottle.
keep it monitored. And they turned around and blinked, and the bottle was
And she
empty.
started
Like
growling, and
yes.
she
I
started
mean,
growling when she was born, and didn't stop for a year. And I was like,
Feisty part. That was a
"That's the feisty
that was the
confirmation.
part."
feisty part. That's it.
And
That's what
and
that
I just
was.
and she is literally everything I prayed for, and I just could not. We could not love her more. And the fact that she's here and that she is the girl that she is, and she's a good time gal, as she likes to call herself, and that she's so full of grit and didn't need to be, but like I'm like, but I feel like the Lord's gonna use that, because I'm like, I said I don't want a wallflower. I said
Right.
our family isn't really wallflowers,
No.
But,
so
but even through the whole thing, I think the supernatural miracle of all of it is that even dealing with what we dealt with, I even felt my faith get stronger through
I
it.
was going to ask you, how did it affect your
I
faith?
mean, yes, you have your rocky points. You have the whys. Why did this happen? But when you pull back and you start seeing the responses of people, I said, my child did more in 4.5 months than some people do in their whole entire lives.
Yeah.
Reaching people, and I was like, all right,
and just being cute.
yeah. I mean, yeah. See, he was beautiful.
But that goes back to
you
the
know,
whole people are watching. People are watching how you. And it was odd because, like, most parents don't think about that. But I'm like, I don't want to misstep on your behalf, Lord, because I'm like, you gave this to us. You're gonna walk us through it, but we
yeah.
gotta let go. But and when Dawn was born, the day she came home, she choked, and I kind of thought I had dealt with all my trauma, and then she choked, and he intervened, and she was just choking like newborns sometimes tend to do, but it completely spun me out. Like
Yes. Yeah.
I really. And I did not sleep for 3 days, and I just held her. And the only time I would nap is if I knew he had her, like holding her. I literally sat up at night holding her and watching TV. And about day 3, my beautiful husband said, "We can't do this. We can't do this. You cannot sustain this. This is not." And the Lord spoke to me when he intervened, and he said, "If you trusted me with Shane, why are you not trusting me with her? Do you not think I carried him? Why can I not carry her?" And I was like, "Okay, that was mean, but whatever." And I went to the doctor. I got help, and so I could think straight, and I could, settle those irrational thoughts. And it took about a week, but then she has forced her hand early on everything, and she wanted to be left alone and left in her crib by herself, which terrified me. But I was like, "Okay, Lord, you're right. I couldn't walk out my son like that and then go, but I'm gonna hover over you, over this one." I'm like, "Okay, here we go. You gotta help me." And he did, and she has thrived ever
Yes, very
since.
much
But
so. Yes,
about a year after she was born, then Jonathan lost his job.
I did. I did. She was, yeah, she was a year old, and I was the
Uh-huh.
only one working because we believed that she needed to stay. That was what
Mm-hmm.
we needed for our life. To her stay home, be the mom, all this and the other. So I was working. Well, I did. I lost my job, and it was a situation with some management change, and you know how that stuff goes.
Where were you working at that time?
I don't know if I should say.
Well,
Well,
was
I
it
mean,
an-
what were you doing?
I was a service advisor at a
He was-
medium duty truck repair facility. And some of the management change came along, and they started changing guidelines and whatever. And I was kind of forced out. But again, I don't have quitting sense. I probably should have left longer before, but I stick in until someone tells me, no, you leave. You're not welcome here anymore. You know. Well, so now I'm panicking. I'm the only one working, and now I don't have a job, you know. And the company fought me on unemployment too. So I'm having nothing to land on, you know. So I'm calling everybody I know, hey, you know, you need this done just to get something going. And so for a year and a half, I did not have full-time employment for a year and a half.
A year and a
A
half.
year and a
It's a year and a
half.
half.
Insane.
Okay. Like I had moments where maybe 4 weeks you didn't have a job, you know, something like that, but a year and a half. And so, but luckily my parents had inherited some money, and they did some remodeling done to their house. Mom said, I'm going to hire you as the contractor. I'll pay you, it was like $18 an hour for 8 hours a day. And then and she said, but it won't be every day. So you can go get a side, you know, some side jobs or whatever. I got a couple part-time jobs to help supplement. And for a year and a half, like I said, we never had nothing turned off. We didn't risk losing anything. Like we were sustained for a year and a half.
And my dad moved in.
Yes, that was before I lost my job, but that was already
My dad
too.
moved in.
And a lot of job interviews, job application. I mean, like I said, it's like I almost hate seeing ads for, you know, like LinkedIn and some of those websites. So I'm like, I spent so much every day. I would try to apply for at least 5 jobs a day.
Wow.
And you know, and so went on several interviews. We did a couple interviews for SRS, which those were interesting if you've never done that. And one job, the guy that was in the interview put my name in to get the job. And when so much so, he asked Dad a couple months later, how's your son liking the new job? Dad's like, he ain't got a job. They're like, what happened? He said, they didn't hire him for that job. And he was shocked. Like, that's how how sure he was that I should have gotten hired. Well, so, you know, things go on. Well, all of a sudden, I saw a job opening for a service technician at Coca-Cola. And I was like, I could do that. You know, I could go work on Coke equipment, you know? So I applied, and just so happened, the man that interviewed me, who was the service supervisor at the time, was my dad's best friend in high school.
Oh, wow.
And one of his best friends, he had several, but, and it was actually at the hospital when I was born. Like that's, you know, how far me and this guy went back. So he did the interview. I got the job, and obviously immediately came in and just, you know, took off. But I've now been there over 6 years. The benefits are amazing. I mean, it really is a good place to work. If you got a good driving record, you can get on it. It's a good job to have.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. You got to have that good driving record. But anyway, but yeah, you know, been there 6 years, and it has allowed her to be more home focused.
Mhm.
You know, she has a few part-time jobs, stuff like that, but at least lets her focus and not have to go out. Like, so that way she's there for Dawn. You know, that was always the important thing for us, you know, be there for the kid, you know.
I think that it's such an incredible story, but that you guys have the hardships, the trials, and the tribulations. And I mean, I can't help but to think of James chapter 1, verse 2, where he's talking about counting as all joy
Yes.
when you encounter trials and tribulations. And the whole point of that is because it produces perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's other scriptures. I think Romans talks about producing endurance in chapter 5. Like our faith is matured and grown through the things that we have to work through.
Yeah. I mean,
And so y'all have been battle tested, not just with the intensity that came with Shane, but
Right.
you also had to go right back to it again. It's like, it's one thing when you're out of work, like you said, for a little bit of time, but for
Right.
18 months, and to have to fend like for your whole family during that time. I've gone through a
You don't
couple of
turn away
moments.
work.
No, you don't. I've gone through a couple of moments where during COVID, my business shut completely down.
Yeah.
And so I've had a couple of moments like that, but nothing to the scale that you guys walk through. But how does that form you guys? Like, how do you feel like those two different moments, these huge pivotal things in your life, how does it prepare you now as you continue to be? Another thing that you were talking about is people were watching. Well, yeah, people have watched your lives. And, you know, Jesus told us that the way that people would know that we were his disciples was the way that we loved one another.
Yeah.
How has these situations prepped you to showcase your love for one another and for other people? And how is that expressed in your faith today?
Well, I mean, just like I said too, you know, when you go through what we go through and you realize the little stuff doesn't matter. I mean, you got new young couples coming in, you can tell them, hey, that stuff, you know, don't worry about the fact that they spilled a little drink on the side table or let that, you know, that thing making a ring on this. You know, the little stuff like that doesn't matter. You focus on the big stuff. You know, you keep that, you know, going. And you know, and a good an advantage that came out of me being out of work, and it's weird to say, I got really close with my daughter. Like, there's times that Christina will go off to do some stuff for all evening. Dawn's like, okay, see you later, mom.
Yep.
If I'm getting ready, if I'm on call, because I have on call with Coke, if I have to leave the house, she's clinging onto my neck. You can't go, you know, you got to stay here with us. But she leaves. All right, mom, see you later.
Bye.
You know, I mean, it literally, you know, because when it happened, she was able to go back to work during that time. So I would do my little side stuff and I'd take her to mom's house and then go pick her up. So we spent a lot of time together. So much so when I got my job at Coke, she was sad. Dawn was literally upset that daddy's now going to be gone all day long. You know, he's not going to be there in the morning, you know, and right after whatever, you know, because she started daycare about that same time, I think, or preschool, I should say. And so, but she knew she wasn't going to see daddy all day long, like before. And, you know, that kind of hurts a little bit, you know, but it's sweet at the same time. You're like, you know, cause now there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
So
That
even
you know,
something that looked like the enemy meant for evil, the Lord
Yes,
turns to something
exactly.
Well, and
positive
then
for
like
you.
even like when I said my dad moved in with me, I had no idea the ride we were fixing to go on.
Yeah,
And that
we might have to do a
tested,
part two. We might have
I
to come back
know,
later. I
that
mean,
tested everything about us again. And I'm like, it kind of like makes us a united front because I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't want to say it out loud too much, but I don't know how much more. But at the same time, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that me and him are a united front, and you can throw a lot of things at us, and it's not gonna stick. Like, and so, but you have to be willing to, somebody said, "What's the best marriage advice you have?" And I'm like, it is never usually 50-50.
no.
I said, and some people go, yeah, you always give 100%. There are days I've not had 100%. There are days I've had 10%, and he's had to come in with the 90. There are days where he's at 40% and I've had to kick in the rest. Like, it's never 50-50, and that's dumb. It's a dumb statement because there are days that you are pouring from an empty cup, and every time he has picked up the slack. And I hope I've done the same for him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just when you feel like you can't keep going and I'm just done. Like, in those times of like not having a job and my dad moved in and like he knew there were days I was pouring from an empty cup. And, then Dawn gets diagnosed with ADHD and my father has a botched knee replacement and then he gets diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And there are days I had maybe 5%. And you have to keep going. There's no other option. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people always go, I don't know how you did it. Well, I didn't know there was a choice.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but to love people and love people well and is always kind of been our goal. And to love people that are having situations like parents that are facing some of the challenges we faced. And even now with like the ADHD community, like, there is a community, it's real and I know there's that phrase gets thrown out a lot, but it's a real thing and there are real struggles that come with it. And we want to be available to help people and pray with parents and like go, it's okay. It's okay. And be those people that are not judging them when their kid is having a meltdown. Our nephew is autistic, nonverbal. He's a little verbal, but he was diagnosed with autism nonverbal. to be those safe spaces for parents when they're going, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, like,
Yeah. You're like,
I'm
no,
like,
no, no,
it's
no.
fine.
Yeah, you're
Like,
good.
this is a safe space for you to be whatever this baby needs to be. And
Yeah.
not everybody gets that because, parents judge. We do. It's what, sometimes, but I've always wanted to be a safe space for parents
That's awesome.
going through any kind of medical fragility of their children, ADHD, autism. Like, we just want to be that safe space of like, stop apologizing.
Yeah.
This is fine. They can do mostly whatever they want to do here. Like, this is what can we do for you? Do you want to talk? Do you need a hug? Do you need to just say this sucks sometimes? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is hard, that it's not just all, you just gotta hug them and, pray for the best. You do pray over them, but there are times like you need a friend and,
You need to
you
be able to be
know, you
honest.
need to
You
be
need
able
to
to be
be able to
honest in your
just say
feelings
what
about
you're really
things.
feeling.
And, and we try to teach our daughter that too, that it's okay to, we have bad days, but it's how you deal with them. You can't,
Yeah.
you know,
That's awesome. I love how you have turned this into a point for you to love on others that are going through all kinds of
Mhm.
different situations. It
Yeah.
sounds like that's good. Well, we're at the point where I want to talk to you younger selves. So you guys have been through so much, and you're so young still. Um, what would you tell your younger self? Now, you guys were always believers. It sounds like because you got us met at the Bible based school and stuff. But what would you tell your younger self if you had just found out about let's say about that 16-week time frame with Shane, just lost a job? Speak to someone's faith. Like what would you tell them to encourage them if they're going through it right now, or maybe they just found out?
your circumstances don't define you,
Yeah.
and you that sometimes you have to fight for your peace. And as much as of an oxymoron as that sounds, sometimes you have to stand on the word, and that God knows your heart and knows your feelings already.
Mm,
So
mm,
don't just do a light, happy prayer. Like, tell him he can take it. And he knew it was coming before. And
Yeah.
that, young Christina, you think you're going to be in control, and you're just simply not. That you think that you are going to handle all these things, but the thing is God has carried you through every bit of it, and you're going to be okay. It's not going to seem like it, but the way you grew up and the grit you got from that is going to carry you. And God made you gritty for a reason. And to stop comparing, because comparison's a killer. Because
oh, well said.
my story is not everybody else's story.
Right.
And even through me growing up with some abuse and things like that, like, God even used that to make me who I am. So don't compare. As they say, you don't compete where you don't compare. Like, don't, because these things you're going through, even young, are getting you ready for what you're fixing to walk through. And also marry the redneck.
Hey, there you go. Jonathan, how
No,
about you?
honestly, I mean, yeah. Now, obviously, our personal stories were a lot different. I mean, now my dad had more of an upbringing like she did, but he even changed to say, my family's not going to be raised that way. I had a dad that was in my life the whole entire time, so I mean, in a way, I was kind of spoiled a little bit. I didn't have a lot of that. So yes, when we went through this stuff like with Shane, it was. I never experienced any trauma and drama like that before, but I mean, again, I had someone who was built for it, that I was walking alongside with, because, when you're going through something that you've never been through, like I had freak out moments. We had a lot of fights over how I was having a hard time dealing with the gravity of the situation. But it did open things up for me in the way to me look at things, So even with that, I think I would probably tell, my younger self, like, you're fixing to go, you're gonna see some stuff that you not grown up with. But, just trust who you're walking with and who you're walking beside, and trust God. You got it. You're
Mhm.
gonna get through it. And you know, and that's because, yeah, there was definitely, you know, tough moments, especially, you know, because when you haven't grown up in a traumatic environment, you almost shut down when something crazy happens because you don't know how to process it. You know, you didn't have that that app added to your life. You know, you know that feature wasn't put in you, but yeah, it does teach you how to deal with things. And I hate to say not look at the world through rose-colored glasses, but it does kind of let you see that this is a tough place we live.
Yeah.
And you know, and you know, things ain't always going to go
Mm.
perfectly. Things are not always going to go smoothly, but it's like you said, it's how you react, and you learn how to react properly. And you know, and I try, you know, and obviously, you know, our Christian walk is a we're constantly under construction until we take our last breath and get up to
Man,
glory. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're never going to be a finished project.
Absolutely.
And you know, and you start trying to learn more to get out ahead of things with prayer, especially when something's starting. Let's go ahead and let's get in this now. You
Yeah.
know, let's do proactive prayer. Let's not do reactive prayer, you know.
Amen.
So that's kind of been a lot of things that I've dealt with a lot through, you know, that thing too, you know. So
That's great advice. You know, one of my favorite sayings on prayer was E.M. Bounds, and it was, prayer is our most accessible and most effective weapon that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
and
So
it's so
why?
hard how the enemy makes it where like
Yeah,
you
it makes
almost
it feel like we need to have that the last
it's
thing we
like it's
do.
work to pray,
No,
and
yeah,
that's straight from the
it
enemy,
needs to be the
you
It
know.
is.
first thing.
I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
talking to God should be like us right here in this, you know,
Exactly
it
right.
should be effortless.
Yeah,
But gosh, how hard do we make prayer sometime,
yeah.
you know?
Prayer life is critical for sure. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing your story. That's a lot of
Yeah.
tough stuff to go back through, but you guys are amazing couple, amazing individuals too, and I love what you're doing on other families in the area. And you know, your best is yet to come.
We say that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
do.
And I wanted to know if you would mind closing us in prayer.
Absolutely.
There may be a mom or dad listening. They are going through something similar. Maybe they lost their job,
Mhm.
but if you could just pray for those watching, and that can connect with this story, I would really appreciate it. And then we'll
Okay.
close out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for who you are. And I just thank you so much for this awesome podcast. And Father, I just ask right now that anybody that's listening, or anybody that is going through these things, or anybody that's really just going through something hard, Father, I just ask, Father, that you're with them. And Father, I just ask that sometimes the circumstances don't look how they're supposed to look, but there is a reason. And sometimes it's growing your faith, and sometimes it's, seeing who you really truly are through hard things. And so, Father, I just ask right now, any parents that are going through things with a special needs child or a medically fragile child, I just ask right now that you give them peace,
Yes, Lord.
peace beyond all
Thank you,
understanding.
Jesus.
I pray that you gird them up with a support system, a faith system, friends that can hold their arms up when they can't hold their own up, Father.
Mhm.
And I just thank you so much for them. And I just ask that you keep them protected, keep their marriage protected, keep their minds protected, keep their
Yes, Father.
spirits protected. And I just thank you so much that even in the fire, Father, that you're making something new. And I just thank you so much for
Jesus.
who you are and what you're doing.
Mm.
And Lord, I want to speak to the job situation, Lord Jesus. You know, as a man, we sometimes that's a very critical thing with us. You know, we have to be the provider. You have instilled that in us as men, that we are the head of our household. We're the financial provider. We're that security. And when you don't have a job, that does affect that feeling, Lord. And for those out there that are looking for jobs, don't be discouraged when a good job slips through your fingers, because you do have the perfect job for somebody
Yes.
out there. But as men, we get discouraged. We're like, that was a good job. How did I not get it? Lord, just be with those people, Lord, and tell them, hey, I
Yeah.
got something better for you.
Guide their steps,
And
Father.
you know,
Jesus.
but also at the same time, as
Mhm.
men, we cannot just sit by and say, okay, well, it's going to happen. No, you get out there and you work, but Lord, just let
Your
that
steps.
work be fruitful, Lord Jesus, and let the right people see these people and give them that right job that will support their family and in every way, not just financially, but time as well.
Yes.
Because as a head of a family, you need to be there for your family too. Don't let these people not find jobs that take up all of their time, but manage it well, give them the fruitfulness they need, Lord Jesus, and just let them find that peace through that time, Lord Jesus, and let them learn more about you. Let them be working on their spiritual lives in this moment too.
So,
And Lord, we just know that you got your hand on everything, Lord, even when we don't see it, Lord, and we just thank you, Lord, for all that.
That's right.
thank you, Lord.
Amen. Amen. Jonathan, Christina, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the response and what this story will do. And not only on this podcast, but in real life too.
Yeah.
The people that you've come across with.
We learned so much today.
Yeah.
We learned how faith can be forged through tragedies like this that you guys have been through, and then we also learned that Ruby Tuesdays is just just bring that back to the front of mind. Like I
got
forgot
it.
about Ruby
They're
Tuesdays.
sleeping on it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh Lord.
Well, folks, thank you so much for watching and joining us today. We hope that this has built your faith up. We're thankful for the testimony that you guys brought, and we hope that all of the listeners here, if you would do us a favor and just like, share, and subscribe to Glory Stories wherever you like to listen. Listen, if you would not mind rating our podcast and giving us a 5-star rating, that helps us out. It helps bring more glory to God through these stories, as that's all we're trying to do here. So thank you all for being here, and we will see you on the next episode.
All right.
The Glory Stories podcast is a production of Glory Stories Media in affiliation with Brightworks Media. Hosted by Robert Kelly and Phil Stanley. Produced by Phil Stanley, Jared Bell, and Douglas Ferguson. Thanks for helping us bring glory to God through stories just like yours. You can reach us anytime at www.glorystoriespodcast.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, God bless you.